Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching, listening, if you're listening, you can follow Toby again at. Oh, he's on. There we go.
I didn't drop the first F-bomb.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Geek Cast. I am Bobby, the Geek Guru. I am here once again with my buddy Toby from the UK. What is up, Toby?
What is up, Bobby? I am very well. Thank you for asking.
And I said, what's up, man? Again with this. This week, we have a special guest. We have fellow Team Geek member, Allan Paxton. Allan, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Bobby. I'm very good. Enjoying a nice cold beer on this warm night.
Nice. Allan is from Scotland, so if you don't understand him, I don't blame you. I can barely understand him half the time either. So it's you just gotta maybe I should add subtitles like how MTV used to when they did the Osbournes. They used to subtitle Ozzy Osbourne. Maybe I'll start doing that for you, so that way.
Maybe as the night goes on, it'll be like just hit mute.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. So, okay, we're going to kick this off like we always do. We're going to kick it off with the Geek Outs. So, we are going to start with our guest, Allan. What are you geeking out about this week?
I think the thing I'm geeking out the most was Gamescom. That obviously is coming to a close, but more specifically, the Microsoft announcements that came out of that. That was just, it was kind of like E3 2.0, and I was just loving it. You know, Crackdown, Quantum Break, Scalebound, all that kind of stuff. Plus the backwards compatibility is blowing up. It was just pretty much everything you could want from the company that dropped the ball so badly. You know, I was just all over that.
They do seem to be really pulling it back together, don't they? It's crazy how much they turned the ship around. It was.
Apart from the fact that stuff was awesome, for me, what it kind of more exciting is, how are Sony, if they can, going to respond to it? Because they've got their own show coming up. Was TGS coming up? Am I right about that?
Yeah, I think so. And then
TGS is next.
Later on in the year, you got the PlayStation Experience. I'm assuming they're doing that again.
It keeps going.
They're definitely done.
Yeah.
But I just, I don't know if they have anything else. You know, I don't know if they kind of blew it all at E3 and they have nothing. You know, I'm expecting to see Uncharted. I just want them to kind of come out strong because Microsoft are really kind of swinging for the fences, and there's so many games that coming out next year that I want now, and that's just for the Xbox. But
you know, I'm not, and everybody kind of knows I'm not a Microsoft fan. I'm not an Xbox fan by any stretch of the imagination. But I am earning so much respect from these guys. It's not even funny because when you look at what they're doing, they got their teeth knocked down their throat a couple of E3s ago, and it's like they went back to the offices with their tails between their legs. They sat down at a board meeting and they said, what do we need to do? And someone raised their hand and said, we need to listen to what the fans want. Let's go check out blogs. Let's go check out, forums and all that. Let's see what they're looking for. And then guess what? We're going to give it to them. And it's just amazing how much, full credit to Phil Spencer, man. That guy is he knows what he's doing with that company. And they're really, really leaps and bounds turning everything around for Microsoft. And I'm to the point where I'm really seriously looking at an Xbox One and saying maybe I should buy one. I definitely, ReCore has my attention, and there's some other stuff. It's a shame that they backed off the exclusivity for Tomb Raider. And
I think that was always coming though, the whole
I think possibly it was, but at the same time, you had everything there.
I'm pretty sure it definitely was planned like that from the start, because they always said exclusively to Xbox, but then right after the conference it was but it's possibly a timed exclusive. I think the words they used made it sound like it wasn't always going to be exclusive. There was some sort of way they phrased it.
They were dancing around it quite a bit.
But I think a lot of people felt okay, yes, it's a time of the exclusive, but they felt like the exclusive was going to break when it went to PC, not necessarily Sony, PlayStation 4.
I think it would have always come to PS4, because Tomb Raider has always been, originally, PlayStation focused, since the PS1 days. I don't think that they'd be willing to let go of that.
Plus, I think Square Enix like money as well. I think to say we're going to avoid the best-selling console, and I just
you
don't know.
You got to look at it like this. Yes, that's true, but let's look at Platinum Games. I mean, they didn't, like, Nintendo gave them money, like Microsoft gave Square Enix money to make a game exclusively. That's Microsoft's baby to decide whether that's going somewhere or not. And
is it going to be enough money though? Because when Tomb Raider came out, they said that it made like so many million, it made like 5 million or whatever, but it wasn't enough, and it was like you would have thought it would have been a major success for the amount of money that it made, but obviously it cost them a lot to make.
Yeah, I remember reading that. It was like it sold 3.5 million and it was underperformed, and you kind of had to think at the time, what did Square expect, you know?
Yeah. So, Toby, what are you geeking out about over there?
Well, I'm geeking out about something that's kind of a rumor, but basically there was some sort of Final Fantasy conference going on somewhere, and one of the composers for the games let slip that they were remaking or remastering Final Fantasy 12, which is one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. It's like, especially the most recent ones, because 10 was good, and they remastered that on PS3 and Vita. I think they brought it to PS4 as well. But I've always loved 12. So if it is in fact true, then that's going to be amazing. So I'm just crossing my fingers that it is.
I personally stopped after 10, but I am so ready for 15. Like, I'm ready to really jump back on, and you know, and this trailer that they released during Gamescom, like, it, for me personally, I watched it and I was like, I'm ready for this. Like, I know it wasn't like the greatest trailer ever, but for me, I looked at it and I was like, I'm so ready for this game. Like, I need to try to dive back into a Final Fantasy game and really have a lot of fun with them, because I played all the ones leading up until, I think the last one I played was 10. I played every one up to 10. And
I think though, sorry to butt in, but I think that 12 is like where the series really started to like reinvent itself, especially in terms of the combat system. And that's like, it was because 12 was like an offline MMO sort of thing, and it was like the battles, they weren't like turn-based, they had like an active like system, and you could run around the map and fight them, and it was just like quite a big change from the more traditional style of Final Fantasy. Obviously, they took it even further with 13 and so on, but I think that it's the perfect balance between something different and something like traditional.
Well, if they remastered, I will definitely check it out. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would jump all over that and definitely check it out, because I've been, ever since Bravely Default last year, I've just been itching to get really back into Final Fantasy. So I think this will be good. Myself, I'm geeking out about an Amiibo hunt I did this morning. So, and it's weird because it really wasn't a hunt of any caliber. It was more of a pre-order hunt. GameStop has the exclusive in the United States on a 3-pack. It's called a Retro 3-pack. It is Duck Hunt Dog, Mr. Game & Watch, and Rob the Robot. So it's coming out in an actual 3-pack. The cards, though, are set up similar to the normal cards. Like, each section will have the character behind it, you know. So I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, went to GameStop. I was first in line. Went out there. My buddy Miguel, who also does some video stuff along with me on the Geek Guru channel, Jason Hoffner, and Chris Lugo, who those guys are in the Geek Guru Facebook group with us. They met me out there, Miguel's brother, and we just sat there for 5 hours and just laughed hysterically the whole time. Just had fun. Just enjoyed the time out there, talking games and talking all kinds of nonsense, and just, it was a lot of fun. Like, it was, you know, as much as I despise hunts, this is the part that I love. I love getting out there, meeting new people. I talked to the manager at GameStop. I might even be doing something with them, because they're doing Madden 16 party there. They might actually have me come in, put a table up, put my videos up so people could see my videos. I was going to like bring pizzas or whatever for the people that are coming for the midnight pickup. So I'm working on that. That's not finalized yet, but that's something that I might do to promote the channel and all that stuff. So it's all in all, I had a lot of fun today. I was able to get the 3-pack. I think what I'm geeking out about is the way they handled it. The way they handled it was they allocated X amount of Amiibo for each store, and that was the pre-orders. The advantage or the idea was let's get it so that way we're not crashing the systems. That was the problem last time, whereas they just let all the stores go into the system at the same exact time, along with people at home who were trying to pre-order at the same time, and it just completely shut the servers down. This time, it was more or less like the East Coast went, Central, Mountain, Pacific, and then Hawaii went sometime after that. But each store, each section, depending on how many Amiibo they bought in the past, were allotted X amount, and so I think my store had 32 pre-orders that they could sell. But also, what they did was you needed to be a pro member. And what that did was that secured that they knew you got your one, and you weren't getting 2 or 3 or 4. So I couldn't technically go in, buy one here, run to a GameStop 5 minutes away, and get a second one. It's like they finally got it figured out. Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is insane. In the UK, there's none of that crap. There's nothing like, oh, you need this. You need to be a member for this. You need to be here like 4 a.m. in the morning to pre-order something.
I know.
What is going on, boy? This is madness.
Madness.
The way the NOA are handling and treating you guys, it's kind of, I just can't figure it out. Like Toby says, I mean, I went to shop too. I saw the pre-orders were up, and I literally just ticked them all. Although you remember the whole, I was struggling with myself. Do I get the me characters? And the collector in me won over and has destroyed my bank balance. But there's none of this. Yeah, you need to queue up here. Show us your card. That gets you one, and then you can go off and live your life. You know, it's almost it's this kind of, I don't know. They just seem to really they seem to be getting it together, but
they're getting it together for launches better. But the problem is today in the Kind of Funny Facebook group, some guy takes a picture and posts it, and someone posted it in the Geek Guru group too, where Josh Brandt actually put it in the Geek Guru group, where a guy pulled up to one of the GameStops, opened up his trunk, and had all these Amiibo, all these rare Amiibo in there. It's scumbags like that, seriously, that's making it hard. Because you got, trying to watch my language, you got guys like that are like literally going in, buying up as many as they can, driving around, doing nothing, and then selling them. And truthfully, we are to blame, the fans. Because when you stop buying from people like that, that's when those people go away. But as long as you continue to feed those people, we're going to continue to have problems. So it's like, at some point, wake up.
The thing is, Bolly, right, is that what I find so bewildering is that I saw pictures on our Facebook groups today of people like in sleeping bags outside of stores, and they're like, they've been there since the night before, waiting for a pre-order.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's nothing. It's all right. Amiibos are great and all, but they're just toys, right? They're just display pieces, and it's not like it's not like it's a. It's not like a brand new console. Like I remember when the Wii came out, I got up at 5 in the morning, went down to my local store place, and queued up and got my Wii, and that was a really exciting experience. And I do understand that it's kind of a bonding experience, and it's fun to do something like that every now and then. But for an Amiibo pre-order, like, I think it's madness that people are queuing up overnight to get something like that.
It's fun. You know what? Like, some of it is ridiculous, but like today was a little far. Like, I would not go out there and stay overnight and sleep in a sleeping bag. Like, that's a bit extreme. But going out there 4 hours early or whatever, like I said, because I'm hanging out with friends and I'm meeting new people. Like, all those guys that I hung out with today, I met them almost a year ago now at a hunt. You know, and it's like we form this bond and we hang out and we talk all the time. Now we play video games and stuff together. So that portion of it, like, I can't be upset about that. Like, that's the fun portion of it. It's the extremes that and the hoops we have to jump through now is the ridiculousness of it, you know. So
it is.
Can I just
Because
ask?
go ahead.
So it was
Go
just, I noticed that each store had a sign up saying this many Amiibo.
Yes.
How many was at the store of the triple pack? How many were available where you went?
32.
And did they all sell out?
No. There were 32 people that didn't show up. There was like I said, we have 2 stores like real close to me. So like they're literally 3 minutes to drive from one to the other. So
Okay.
when we got there, there was a group of kids that came, about 5 or 6. They left and went to the mall. So I guess they looked and got annoyed that we were number 1, and they left. So, you know, that is what it is. But let's move on. Let's move on to what I'm playing, and we'll start you off with you, Toby, this time. What are you playing right now?
Alright, so I got a list of 3 games. One is basically a staple to my gaming diet, which is Grand Theft Auto 5. You know all about that, didn't you, Bobby?
Uh-huh.
So every week, basically, my friends and I, we play this game. It's sort of just our bread and butter at the moment. But the 2 other games that I'm playing are on 3DS. So one of them is a little indie game that's just come out called Mercenary Saga 2. And it's kind of like Fire Emblem in a way. It's a turn-based strategy game, but it's isometric and it's like pixel art. It's like Game Boy Advance type graphics, which I really like. And it's, you know, it's fantasy based. You'll go around, you've got swords and arrows and clubs and stuff, and you've got different character types with their special abilities. It's kind of like, it's quite simple though. It is very similar to Fire Emblem really, but less complex. Like you can't sort of combine your characters together, at least not at the moment. And it's actually quite a hard game. I found, like, I don't know whether I've done something wrong, but for some reason I've got a normal difficulty, but it's just insanely hard because I've got a healer, but he can't seem to keep up with the amount of damage that the other characters are dealing me. And I think that's because I've not got enough like healing items for the other characters. So I think that I might be able to buy them like on a different menu that I've not seen yet. So that's why I'm finding it hard, I think. But yeah, it's a really good game. It's quite cheap. It was like £3 something. The other game that I'm playing is a Game Boy game called Cat Trap, otherwise known as Pitman, I think. It came out in 1990. Basically, it's a puzzle game where, it's quite a simple concept, but it's really sort of addictive because each stage is it's like a 2D like platformer. You can't jump. It's kind of like Captain Toad but in 2D, and you've got to go around and walk like into the side of cats to like kill them, and you have to clear the stage of cats. But there's like ladders and rocks that fall and like walls that you can break and stuff. So, and you can like make mistakes very easily. So you can rewind time to sort of, if you make a mistake and you see that you're stuck, you can just press the B button and it will rewind time and you can just start again. But yeah, it's really addictive, and that was less than £3 too, actually.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
So that's the games that I've been playing.
Allan, how about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I've been working my way through the games that my girlfriend bought me for our anniversary. So I just today completed Arkham Knight. I didn't 100% it, but I don't have the time to go through the Riddler missions. So I'm done. Really loved the game. I missed the first 3, so I'm looking to maybe go back and play them. Probably.
You never played the first 3?
I didn't. I don't know what it was.
That's crazy because you're a big Batman fan too.
I'm not the biggest. I think that goes to yourself. But
yeah, but you're still a big fan.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. This game just grabbed me from the outset. The other ones have just kind of. I played Armored Edition on the Wii. I don't know what. It didn't click. But after playing this, I might go back. And I've been hearing good things about Origins. Even though I think it's very divisive, I'm kind of wanting to play it for myself and make that decision.
Yeah.
And I have just started on Splatoon, so I'm level 8 at the moment, and I'm just trying to find find where I'm at, what I like weapons wise. So that's taken up some of my time, and yeah, that's it for me. I'm kind of trying to just get through 2. I have got Yoshi's Woolly World sat opened, so I think now that Batman's done, it's going to be Splatoon and that are going to be my 2 games to go to.
Nice. See, for me, Batman has been the other way around. Like, I played a little bit of the first one, quite a lot of City. I didn't play Arkham Origins, but the new Batman, I've kind of just like been really put off by it. So everything I've seen of it, you know, it looks cool. Graphically, it's nice. Combat's cool looking, but I just don't see that it does anything that is so different for me to want to buy it. There's the Batmobile stuff, but from what I've seen of that and heard about the like tank stealth sections, like I'm kind of really put off with that part of the game.
For me, as a Batman fan, I love the storyline. And the reason why I say that is a lot of stuff that they touch on in the past, and spoilers if you guys haven't hit this point yet or whatever, but I think a lot of people know this already. The Joker is back in this one, and he's in Batman's mind. But the stuff that he says to Batman and the stuff he talks about is stuff that was in the comics years ago. And you see these things play out in Batman's mind, and it's just like my mind was blown away. Like, I saw stuff that I read in comics as a kid, and I thought when I read it as a kid, I was like, oh, that's okay. And you're just flipping through the pages and you're reading, and you don't really let it sink in that much. But to see it happen, I was just like, wow. Like, I literally, on 2 points, got teared up because I was like, that's brutal. Like, that stuff that went down is, like, really brutal to see unfold. And to think that, like, as a kid, I read about it, and I was just like, wow. Like, you know, as a kid, I like I said, I kind of glossed over. Like, I got what was going on, but it wasn't like I was really honed in emotionally to be upset about it. But then as an adult, to go back and to watch that stuff play out was just brutal. So, but for me as a fan, I loved that part of it. Like, I loved he come out of a building and there's Joker sitting there and laughing at him and making up jokes about his girlfriends and this and that, and it was good. They really did a good job.
I do agree with Toby. I think there's parts of the game, the tank missions kind of feel tacked on. I do think that a lot of the side missions are overly padded. It's like the number of Riddler trophies and all that. That's what put me off. I'm like, no, I'm not wasting that. But yeah, I agree with you. I do think, though, that they did themselves a disservice in some areas. I don't want to go into the full spoiler, but I do think that they telegraphed something that happens later on a little too. You know, I think they marked it too much.
Yeah, there was that one point where they really. I knew who Arkham Knight was straight off, but there was a middle section, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And when they hit it once and then they hit it again, it was like you're really pushing this down our throats. Yeah. Where if they would have just done what they did earlier with Oracle, like a one and done, probably wouldn't have honed in on it as much as you did. But because they did it 2 times, you kind of like, okay, you're trying to really send a message here.
Yeah. I do think they missed an opportunity to maybe.
I almost would have been. If they would have. You there?
Yeah.
If they would have done the one, and then if they would have done Barbara Gordon, done the next one, and then done the next one differently, then it might have been a little different. I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm playing right now is, and I'll just make this brief and quick, I'm playing Mother 3. Love it, love it, love it. I can't get enough of this game. Like, it is really, it's pulling me away from my PS4 and my Wii U. It's crazy that the graphics, I'm a huge pixel art fan, so I'm playing it and I'm just like in love with it. Like, I'm playing it on my DS Lite, so it's a smaller screen, and I'm like, when I first started looking at it, I was like, man, do I really want to play on this little screen? But the graphics are just crisp on it. Like, it's really, really nice. So that I'm playing. Infamous Second Son I picked up this week. I'm playing that, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a beautiful game. Like, really is beautiful. So it's the first game of the Infamous series that I've ever played. So I'm enjoying it. I know a lot of people are divisive on this one, and they weren't really happy because they wanted characters from the past games to come forward. But I'm not worried about that. Like this is my first take in of it, so I'm enjoying it so far. But I don't want to get into a whole lot of what I'm playing. We're going to move it. So next topic we wanted to hit was, and this is the third week in a row. I don't know whether it's us, Toby, or if it's something else, but like it seems like since we started this, something new about Konami's been hitting every single week. So again, here we are, Konami, third week in a row. Basically, there's a lot of craziness coming out of Konami, and what I wanted to talk about actually was Allan supplied me with an article this week about Konami and the stuff that's going on to the employees there, where it's almost like it's craziness at this point. And so I wanted to, Allan, I was going to go to you to kind of go over the article, what it was basically about, and then I wanted to ask Toby and you, like how you guys would feel about working at Konami at this point in time. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's been well publicized other places, but when it caught my eye, it was when you read what was going on at Konami, it was Orwellian, just, the way they seem to be treating their staff. Whatever reason is going on at Konami, there's something fundamentally broken at that company. At the moment, it seems that their staff are almost treated like prisoners. They are being forced to swipe cards in and out of lunch breaks, and anyone that takes too long on a break is being named and shamed company-wide. Now, Konami itself it branches out, so whether or not it's just where they work or if it's every portion of the company, I don't know. Staff that aren't meeting expectations are being thrown to other roles, most notably working at the pachinko factories, which obviously, again, they're doing after the nice big announcement of Silent Hills, the pachinko machine, or cleaning up at their sports facilities. For me, the depressing one, and I know it's part of Japanese business, like if they don't fire you, they kind of just, if you're not doing something, they downsize you and they put you in a role out with, just to kind of say, right, off you go. I think they did it, the one that stood out for me was the creator of the Game Boy. Before he left Nintendo, they did the same to him after the Virtual Boy failed. They put him to a different role in the company and said, that's your lot. Yeah. But yeah, it's just very strange. I mean, security cameras in the halls to monitor staff going to and from their roles, randomized emails to prevent people communicating out with the company. I mean, I don't know about you, but if my employer tried to do that to me, I think I would seriously be considering my position at that company and if I want to be working in that. Whether or not that's got anything to do with what happened with Kojima, I don't know. I think that's probably more ego and money than anything else. Mm-hmm. But certainly for everyone else, it's just a horrible sounding place to work. Obviously, none of this is, I think, officially confirmed. I think it's all just through undisclosed sources. But yeah, just absolutely a horrible place to be working at the moment, I think.
Toby, what do you take from all this?
I think it's horrible. It's almost like a post-apocalyptic evil corporation at this point. Like, from what I've heard, they're basically being spied on. You can't take an extra 5 minutes on your lunch break or whatever, and you're getting cameras on you. Not for your safety, but to just keep tabs on you. It's horrible. Like, why would you want to work in a place like that? So it's like Allan said, it's a bit depressing, really. And it seems to me like lately, like the reason we've been talking about Konami so much is because it's kind of like slowly the lid is being lifted off the top of Konami, and we're all peeking inside now. So first of all, it's like seeing the Kojima thing slowly unravel, and then now it's like working conditions and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's just it doesn't seem like a very nice place to work. And I don't know who's running that company, but they're doing something wrong.
For me, and I'm going to play devil's advocate just a little bit here. For me, I feel like this. Number one, this is just Japanese culture. The shaming, the moving around, all that stuff. Like, that's all stuff that's been going on in Japanese companies for years. I think the problem is that you now have guys like, or companies like Polygon and IGN and all that are seeing that, and the way we are in the United States, and I'm not necessarily sure how everything operates overseas in Europe, but the way we are, you know, workers have rights and stuff now. Like, what's going on with Konami is more or less something that's been happening for years, since the 80s that I know of. Like Allan said, you know, when the creator of the Virtual Boy, when the Virtual Boy flopped, they didn't fire him. They just put him in a desk and didn't have him do anything at all, and nobody talked to him. They just basically put him in isolation. You come to work, you go down to your room, and you don't leave all day. And then nobody would talk to you, nobody would give you work to do. You would just sit there all day and do whatever. But in Japanese culture, that's a huge, like, in the United States, if someone did that to a person here, no doubt people would be like, oh, you're going to pay me to sit in a room all day and do nothing? No problem, thank you. But in Japan, the culture's different, and that's like a huge shame to the family and a slap to the face. In the United States, it's more of a shame to actually get fired and lose your job over stuff like this. So I can think part of the uncles Konami's doing, absolutely not. I'm not condoning it by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and going, that's kind of their culture. That's just kind of what they do. And unfortunately, it's just how it is. It's status quo. There's nothing we can do. And shining a light on it and just showing how much it sucks, at the end of the day, that's just how they do stuff. And the other thing, too, is you're only getting, I feel like you're only getting one side of the story. You're getting the employee side of the story. Like, maybe these guys at Konami are looking at it like, well, this is our last game. I'm not coming back for 20 minutes after my lunch break. And it's a continual thing. And now maybe Konami is like, okay, we got to stop this. Like, they're bleeding us of money. Like, we need this game to get done at a certain time so we can get Kojima out of here, and they're just dragging their feet. Like, you don't really, the whole story isn't out yet. So I feel like we're getting bits and pieces, and people are starting to jump on top of things and pounce on them, and I feel like we just got to wait and see. Like, if you're that upset about what's going on, don't buy the game. That's how I feel. But at the same time, a lot of people are going to buy this game. So maybe that's partly what Konami's other problem is, too, is like, we need to meet this deadline. We can't let this game delay. We need to push these people to keep working at all times. I don't know, what exactly the issue is. And unfortunately, it's also,
sorry about it, but there's also I know that the Japanese culture side thing, but when you add to it the kind of naming and shaming, that throws kind of, have they done something properly wrong, i.e. they're failing to meet standards set for their role, or is it they've been late for their back from their lunch 3 times in a row, right, get them off somewhere else, they're not doing that. And, again, like security cameras in the hallways, you could say is security conscious, but if it is solely just for monitoring staff, that's a little bit...
That we don't know. Like, is it a situation where it's just, hey, you know what, maybe we're afraid that Kojima's got guys going to steal stuff out of here. Mm-hmm. Because, again, we don't know the extremity of what's going on just yet. Like, it hasn't been released. Obviously, once Kojima leaves, a couple of years after he's gone, and he settles down into what he's doing, it's all going to come out. But at this point, we don't know. So maybe these guys are just like, hey, so-and-so is Kojima's buddy. We need to put cameras in the hallways to check. Like, I feel like, here's the difference. Cameras in the hallways, I could care less. Cameras sitting over me while I'm trying to work all day, and that's a little different. I'd have more of an issue with that than I would be with a camera in the hallways and stuff like that. Like I said, I think a lot of what we're hearing right now is coming from the workers. I don't think Konami's saying anything at all. We know Kojima's not saying anything at all. So I think we're in a situation of it's more of a wait and see. And, and it's easy to pick at Konami because they're the big bad corporation and everybody just points a finger and says, hey, you're messed up. I'm really, really curious to see what this all ends up being. Like when all the chips are down and everybody can read them and look at them and say, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. This is a story, boy. This is this is one for the ages. So I'm really, now again, if it's a situation where the guy's late one time and they're like, they put his name on a huge placard and, this idiot was late today, and, and then they keep doing stuff. Yeah, it's a little harsh. That's a bit rough, you know what I mean? Like, but if it's like you said, a situation where the guy's late 3 times in a week, 3 days in a row, that's just their culture to shame you rather than fire you. Maybe they should just be like, "Hey, get out of here. See you later." But it's strange. The whole thing's strange. And if you listen to Jose, he was on 8-4-Play, the podcast last week. They're the guys that do the translating for Nintendo. They did Fire Emblem Awakening and they do some other games. So they were discussing Fire Emblem Fates. And there's some weird stuff in that game, like the touching of people and all that stuff. But apparently, like in Japan, like we find it weird. But like in Japan, like to show affection, guys will like rub their, you'll rub like their forehead or their chin, like depending on it. So it's like, it's different. Like the culture is different. So when you look at things like that, it's like when you see things like that in a game, and then you hear like Japan is just a weird country. They do things very differently, very weird. So for me, I'm like, let's just wait and see. Let's see how everything pans out in the wash. But
well, the thing is, like, this article is being published about Konami, so is that somebody who's trying to give Konami a bad name because of this whole Kojima thing? Mm-hmm. Or are they actually trying to expose bad working conditions? Because there's plenty of other Japanese game publishers and developers that don't have articles like this written about them. And you've got to ask yourself why. Like, why doesn't Nintendo have an article trying to expose working conditions at Nintendo? It's probably because the working conditions are a lot better than a place like Konami. There must be a reason for this article to exist.
It's possible. I feel like it's partly the Kojima thing, and I also feel like it's partly, maybe some workers are starting to blow the whistle, per se. We talked about it last week when I told you how, or maybe the week before, Miyamoto apparently is a real jerk behind the scenes.
You see, you say that, right? And we hear these stories about him coming in and flipping the tea table. That's the famous thing. But I think that's obviously that's not a physical thing. He doesn't physically go in and knock tables over. He's going in and he's looking at these games from a different perspective, and he's saying, have you tried it this way that's completely different to the way you're doing it? And it does kind of flip the development on its head sometimes, but I think in a lot of ways that's a good thing, because people get so focused looking at something one way, they forget to look at it the other way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what my moto is good at, is coming in and looking at things from a different perspective. And I think that's what people mean by the way he comes in and he flips the table up and he changes everything. And I don't think he's doing it maliciously or in an evil, nasty way. I think
it's not. Way. And let me explain what I'm saying. I don't believe that it's a vicious or evil way that he's doing it. I believe that it's their culture. It's how they do things. Him and Yamaguchi were like this, and he was brought up in a different time of video gaming and how you did business. They say that he is very similar to Yamaguchi on the business side of things. And there's already history shown that, like, they shun you in Nintendo. I think the difference is, like, there was articles written about how the creator of Virtual Boy was treated after he, but that was after he died. They talked about it. So I think it's just, part of it is we come from different cultures and we don't understand it and we don't comprehend it because it's not okay where we live, and I think part of it is someone with an axe to grind. I think, again, I'm not condoning the way Konami's acting or what they're doing. I just think there's more to the story, and I'm more or less like, hey, I want to wait and see before I actually pull a judgment and go, oh, no, you're messed up, or you are dead on. I kind of just want to wait and see how the chips fall before I make a decision on where I'm going with it.
What I read does remind me a little bit of what you heard Apple whether it used to be or still is, the kind of paranoid level that things were taken there, and how Steve Jobs himself behaved. The guy, whether you loved him or hated him, he took that company, built it up, and came back and saved it when it was at the brink of collapse.
Mm-hmm.
But from what it sounds like, he was a totalitarian type leader, whereby he, for lack of a better word, he literally oversaw it all. He wanted to micromanage everything and make sure it was. Whereas now you look at Tim Cook, he definitely appears outwardly to be the opposite of that.
Yes.
I think the thing with Konami is we're looking at it as a corporate level, but is it possible that all these decisions are just the choices being made by one man, or is it a group decision? I think, again, in 10 years, this whole Konami story is going to be an amazing book.
Yeah.
Just like the whole Sega Gearbox Alien Colonial Marines thing will be a great book.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know I definitely don't think within the next 5 years we're going to know the truth of it all. It will be a decade down the line where the dust is settled, everyone's moved on. If Konami go the way I expect, they'll be the next THQ, and then it'll all kind of spill out. Once there's no more, not bad blood, but when there's nothing really to lose at that stage from it coming out.
I agree. All right, do you guys have anything else for that, or should we move it along?
No, I think we should move on.
Okay. I think
Okay.
we should, yeah.
Okay, good. The next topic we have is pretty much what if Nintendo and Sony never split up? Where would the companies be? Where would we see it would be? There was a lot of news that came out after that gentleman found a prototype of this Nintendo Sony PlayStation. Just to give people some back history, right around the time, just before the Nintendo 64 was launched, and we were still in the Super Nintendo era, there was rumors floating around that Nintendo was playing with the idea of bringing in discs, CDs, into the fold. At the time, you had Sega with the Sega CD, so Nintendo was trying to battle back from that. And their idea was, hey, we'll do our own CD drive, we'll partner with Sony, and it'll go from there. So it was supposed to be a mix of a Super Nintendo, probably the next step, which would have been in like a Nintendo 64, and a PlayStation per se.
Mm-hmm.
There's documented stories of the day that it was supposed to be announced at E3. Nintendo went out and called an audible on the stage and shocked Sony, embarrassed Sony. Sony went off and started the Sony PlayStation by themselves. Now, depending on what stories you believe and you find to be true, Nintendo was giving up a lot to make this deal happen. I believe that when you look at it, I think that Nintendo, for themselves, made a good and a bad decision. I feel like they should have maybe gone back and negotiated with Sony, not like basically embarrassed them in front of everybody and yanked the plug on stage at E3. But I think that the deal that they were going to be given, like if you look at that prototype, that's a true fire of, that basically shows that what Nintendo was basically saying is legit. Like when you look at that prototype, and that guy showed everything. I don't know if you guys watched the video at all.
Yeah.
But the only place on it that it said Nintendo was on the back of the controller. There's Sony all over that thing. And so when you look at that, like it leads me to believe that what Nintendo was saying was like, if we made this deal, we were giving up a lot to Sony, and Sony was reaping all of it, and they were basically, to some degree, taking over Nintendo. Not completely, like not a hostile takeover, but basically they were going to have more control over decisions and how things were done and all that stuff. So I can kind of see why they did it. I think that they should have gone back and done things a little differently. But that said, that's neither here nor there. Where do you guys, let's say that speech did not, or let's say that they did not make the change and they did stick with Sony. Do you guys think that they would still be with Sony, or would they have already split by now?
Personally, when I look at it, when you see what happened with the Philips the add-on, again, it never came to anything. Yeah. But there was the additional underlying of that agreement where Philips could create their own system and use Nintendo IP. I actually think the situation we're in is probably where we still be. I think ultimately that what would have happened with the Sony add-on is that Nintendo wouldn't have gone forward with it. Sony would likely have just continued development as they did. And we probably wouldn't see much of a big difference. Nintendo as a company now is very different to the Nintendo company of yester, because obviously, I'm going to butcher it, I think it was Yamamuchi. He was very much again, we'll come back to him, like a Steve Jobs figure. He made the decisions, he made the choices, and ultimately, if he didn't agree with it, it wasn't going to happen, and that's what happened here. I just think Sony had the forethought, especially if you've read the book Console Wars, they definitely saw the future being in games consoles.
Yes.
I think what would really have happened is they would have pushed forward development. Nintendo would likely have gone, no, this isn't for us. We'll go off and do the N64. Sony would have had, well, we've got this system. We'll just make it go our own way as we did. Would that made them as aggressive to go after Nintendo, though? I think that would change it. I think if they may not have, at least in Europe, it felt like their whole goal was to destroy Nintendo.
Yeah.
Just like advertising, everything was to do them in. And I think it may have been, they wouldn't have been out for blood as much as they were.
Yeah.
And I think we may have seen a less. I think the system may have been huge, but not on the level it was,
Toby, what do you think?
I think it's so hard to think about that because the companies now are so different to each other. Like Nintendo's philosophy has always been about fun, family-friendly, and gameplay first above technology. And like their technology was kind of made from their gameplay ideas. Like they always said, like the Wii Remote was designed for like Wii Sports or whatever it was. Like it was, they had a gameplay idea and they designed the console around that, and that's how they did that. And they did that with the Wii U as well. Like they thought, oh, how about we make a game with the gamepad? Like how would that change how we make games? I know they haven't really done much with that. That's kind of fallen on its feet, but like Sony have always been more of a sort of tech raw power. Like the way they develop their consoles is just more power, basically. Like the controller has practically stayed the same since the PlayStation 1. All right, they've added the sticks, but the overall design of it is the same. So it's kind of hard to see, like, to imagine how the Nintendo's design philosophy would fit with Sony's sort of idea of how consoles should be. So, I mean, it could be like there would be amalgamation of the two. So Sony would probably push for more powerful consoles, and Nintendo would push for more innovation with the controller. So maybe the controller might have been more different, but the console would probably again be more powerful. But I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say really, because I think where Nintendo differs so differently from Sony is that they've got different core audiences now. So if you combine those audiences in one, I don't know whether it would be as good or not. I mean, I think they both had their own strengths now. So.
For me personally, I look at it and I go, okay, what came out of this split? What was the point that made Sony so powerful? And I think it was last episode that I talked about it. To me, it was Final Fantasy VII. When Sony grabbed Final Fantasy VII, basically from Nintendo, that hurt Nintendo. That basically, because at that time, that gave Sony credibility. It's almost like you can make whatever you want. Like, think about it. Like, the Ouya and all these other systems that come out, like, in the time. Like, what's the thing that doesn't get them up and running? Is because they don't get any credible games. Like, they don't really get true backing from third parties. I feel like that when Sony partnered with Square Enix, I think it was just Squaresoft at the time, but when they basically partnered with them to produce the games and to push it out, it made people give a serious look at Sony and go, wait a minute, if Square's over here, maybe we should take a look at these guys and see really what they're doing. And I feel like that's what started it. So I feel like if those two do on that stage and that system does come out, I think first off, the system and the deal is totally different than Philips. It's a deal that basically gives Sony some more control because of the proprietary things with the CDs and all that stuff. I think, but what it does is it also gives Nintendo and their people an opportunity to look at how things are done. I think that when they go to the GameCube, I think they're at CDs. I think that when the Nintendo 64 hits, they ditch the carts. And I think all these things are where Nintendo starts to see things differently. Now, whether they stay together or they split, I don't know. But if they, let's say they do split, I feel like if they would have done that one console with Sony before they split, I think it only strengthens Nintendo and it weakens Sony. I think that people would have, because at that point Sony or Nintendo would have been more into the discs and the hard, that type of deal. You don't lose Square Enix. So it doesn't give Sony that jumping point to pull people from Nintendo and to give people a serious look. Like when I went to Sony PlayStation from the Nintendo 64, it was because of Final Fantasy. I didn't take Sony seriously until I got that game. And then when I got it, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So you do what you got to do to get people in the door. Once you get them in the door, how do you keep them? And that's where Nintendo dropped the ball. They allowed Sony to get people in the door. I feel like if you bring that partnership together, you don't necessarily get people in the door right away. And then when they go off to their next system, which was the GameCube, and at that point you had the PS2, but it would have been the PS1 at that point. Where do things go if they split up, or if they just stay together? Just like you talked about it the one week, Toby. Like, my God, like if they stay together and one's just making the horsepower and one's just making the games, and ultimately that's what people basically are looking at. Like if Nintendo just made games and didn't have to worry about the hardware side of things, you're talking about a superpower. And I honestly think that like Microsoft is on its last legs right now, because what's hurting Nintendo? Hardware. What's hurting Sony right now? Games. You take those two and you slap them together, Microsoft, when Sony gets that jump on them and starts running, you have Nintendo making the games, Microsoft's dead in the water. They're done. There's no way they're coming back from this jump. If you think about it, you take all these games that just came out this past year, Mario Kart, Smash, Splatoon, all these different games, these big knockout games that they've had over the past 2 years. There's no way that Microsoft comes back from that. Because, go ahead.
Do you think that Sony's PlayStation Vita would sell a lot more if Nintendo was making games for it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think it would be better than the 3DS?
Yes. And here's why I say it would be better than the 3DS. Think about it. If I could play Mario Kart remote play, come on. That don't get no better than that. If I could play, let's just take if I could play Smash on the go, with a more powerful handheld, absolutely. If I could play Mario Golf, if I could play Mario Kart on the go, if I could play Animal Crossing on the go, absolutely. Because again, you're talking hardware, gaming. That Vita, I'm sorry to say it, that Vita is a better system than the 3DS. When you put them side by side, what's better? Now, the look and the design, maybe not so much, because with the clamshell, it's more protective of the screens and all that stuff. But you take it, you break open the hardware and you look at it, it's a better game system on that thing. It's more powerful. If you had Nintendo games on that Vita, it's game over. It's game over.
Think Nintendo, you made a point that Nintendo's hurting at the moment from hardware. That was through I think we all agree now, a misguided choice in terms of the Wii U. The thing with the Vita, its own worst enemy is that it is so powerful. And I think Nintendo applied the right the right mindset to the 3DS, which is we need it to be moderately powerful so we can maximize battery life, and it's innovative to a point. I don't think the 3D was as big a thing as they thought it would be, and again, it didn't really add anything to gameplay.
Yes.
When you look at the GameCube, that was the last time Nintendo directly competed, and okay, it was the mid-level power system. You know, it was more powerful than the PS2, but obviously it wasn't anywhere near the Xbox in terms of raw power. But you could do a lot with the system if you knew what you were doing. I think that's proven by the Rogue Squadron series of games on that system. You know, what Nintendo moving forward? You know, we've spoken about that. You know, you've done it on your show, I've done it on mine. I think everyone's kind of muted it. If the Nintendo relationship with Sony had continued, again, I think the only fundamental difference where we'd be now is that they would have adopted CDs earlier.
Yes.
I just think it's a difficult one. I would love to play the fidelity I've got of Mario Kart 8 on the go. That would be awesome. But yeah. I don't. It's like it comes back to the mindset of the company, and I just think like where we are now with Nintendo is probably where we're going to be with Nintendo for the future. But I think a point that needs to be made is if Nintendo were to now merge with a company, do you think Sony would be willing to do that given the history that they have with the SNES?
I feel like the people that were making decisions are long gone. And first off, I don't think it would happen because Nintendo wouldn't swallow its pride. If it was a partnership, like let's say it was not so much like DNA, maybe it was more of a 50-50, like each one bought into each other's stock 50-50. Again, I don't see this happening, but we're doing hypotheticals. This whole conversation's hypotheticals. But yeah, if they bought in and they said, okay, we're 50-50, we own, I feel like at that point, me and Toby discussed this on the last episode, what's the one thing that Nintendo does better than anybody? They know how to utilize that hardware the best ever. So if now they're working with Sony and they're basically saying, like, this is what the thing does, okay, good, we're going to amplify this and we're going to just blow it out of the water. That's the one thing Nintendo does better than anybody. You know, they take what they have, the hardware, and they blow it up. Like, I really, truly believe. The Vita might be too powerful, whatever, but what's the one thing that a lot of people want right now? Is a hybrid system. I feel like Sony, with what they have between the Vita and the PS4, is closer to a hybrid than we had with the Wii U and the 3DS. If you could do that and marry the two, I just think that, like, you look at what Sony already has with Naughty Dog and all these guys, and then you add Nintendo to making games exclusively for Sony, I think that, and again, it's not Nintendo making them for Sony. Like, I'm just saying, like, if they were still together, they still would be making the decisions together. It wouldn't be that Sony owns Nintendo or Nintendo owns Sony. It's a collaborative agreement. But in that, they go, hey, we're Sony. We're going to handle the hardware aspect of it. You guys can come in and tell us what you need and this, that, and the other. But we're going to make the hardware. We're going to teach you and show you how we're making hardware. So that way, when you're making games, you can fully utilize them the way you always done with all your systems. But you guys handle the games. We're handling the hardware. And I just feel like, without a shadow of a doubt, like, they own the gaming industry. And I really believe that if you had a situation where Nintendo and Sony, to me, would be a powerhouse. There ain't no doubt about it. Now, do I think that? Do I, go back to your original question? Do I feel like they would be able to get past all the history? Absolutely. It's a shame that Iwata died, because I think that Iwata and Shu would totally work together. No doubt about it, because they seem like they're two level-headed, good guys. But now with Iwata kind of out of the picture, I don't know how the next guy coming in would be able to make it work. But
Shuhei Yoshida is constantly praising Nintendo for
Absolutely.
stuff that they do, and he's a very likable character. So I think if someone like him was in charge, or like, a major part of a collaboration, then it could definitely work.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap this up. That was a good. I kind of liked that conversation. That was kind of fun. Okay, so now we're going to wrap it up. We're going to talk about a giveaway. So if you've made it this far, hopefully you have, we basically have some Amiibo we're giving away. We're going to do the first one. The first one is basically going to be Jiggly Puff. So I have Jiggly Puff here. This is a UK edition of Jiggly Puff, still in the package, sealed, perfect condition. There's a little bit of a crimp in the bottom corner of it, but it's still very good. Anyway, there's Jiggly Puff. So how can you win Jiggly Puff? Very simple. You need to subscribe, be a subscriber to the Geek Guru channel. You need to share this Geekcast. Don't care how you share it. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Google, Plus, whatever you want to do, share it. Leave a comment below. You can ask us a question. You can just leave a comment. Doesn't matter. Just leave a comment below. Share the video. Be a subscriber. Then next week, Toby and I will randomly choose someone to win Jiggly Puff. The next one that's up for grabs is Palutena. Again, Palutena is UK, Euro exclusive. Pretty much, it's, again, still in the package. This one's pristine. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's not exclusive, Bobby.
Well, I mean exclusive to the UK. It says UK writing on there. It's not United States. It's
Europe.
not Japan.
Not UK,
And that pristine box, I might say, is stunning and should
nice.
remain in the box.
Okay,
as all of them should.
Alan, we're not going to start with that, okay?
There's a caveat. You have to agree not to open it to win it.
No, you can open
I like it.
I encourage you to open it. So in this, Toby, this is going to be Toby's kind of giveaway. He's going to take charge on this one. So go ahead, Toby. Explain.
All right.
how.
So what you have to do to win this one is basically, I've been getting into my pixel art lately. So I've been doing a lot of pixel art myself, designing characters and stuff for imaginary games and whatnot. So I would like you to come up with basically an enemy design for a 2D platformer. So you can draw a picture, you can write a description of what they do, and if you want to, you can even make your own pixel art sprite of this character. So it could be anything you want. There's no like guidelines to what sort of enemy it is. Just try and be creative. You go into as much detail as you want. And I'll basically pick my favorite one on the podcast.
The way that you can enter for this one, you can either tweet the image to Toby. He's at Tobys_take. You can either tweet this to him. You could join our Facebook group. Is facebook.com/the Geek Gurus. Join the Facebook group, and then you can just post it in there and tag Toby or me or Alan in that, and that'll. At the end of the week, Toby will pick his favorite drawing, and then you will win Palutena. Free. The next one, I want to do two. I'm going to give away 2 Amiibo. So we're going to do a 2-week 2 Amiibo giveaway. And it's a Twitter giveaway. So it's a lot of TWs and all of it. I'm going to give away Dark Pit, Euro, and Ness, North America. So to win these 2, here's what we're going to do. This one is a Twitter giveaway. Tomorrow, actually, okay, so Monday morning, I will tweet out an image. It'll be an image of these 2. There'll be some information on the image. You need to do 3 things. You can enter 3 times to win these. What you want to do is you want to follow myself. I'm at the Geek Gurus. You want to follow Toby, again, at Tobys_take, or follow Alan at Full Fat Gaming. If you retweet, the 3 of us will tweet out this image. You will then retweet the image. You will follow us, and you will use the hashtag GeekCast Amiibo giveaway. So you do those 3 things. That automatically enters you into winning these 2. And then in 2 weeks, we will randomly draw somebody to win. We'll take everybody's name, put it into a generator, pull it. But we're going to enter you, if you do it, if you retweet mine, that's 1 entry. You retweet Toby's, that's 2. Allan's, that's 3. At the end of the week, or at the end of the 2 weeks, Alan will give me a list of all his retweets, the names, Toby will give me a list of all his retweets. I'll take all mine. We'll throw it in, and then someone will win both of these. So, again, free Amiibo from the Geekcast. I'm pretty excited about it. It's kind of cool. I always love giving stuff away. It's a lot of fun. So I figured this was a good way. We got 3 different contests going on here, 3 different ways to win. You can win your chance to win 4 Amiibos. So that is all. Thank you guys for watching. If you watch this, if you're listening to the audio portion of it, I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. You can check out the video portion on YouTube, the audio portion on iTunes, SoundCloud, and we are on Stitcher as well. Share it with all your friends, please. That really would make us happy. You can follow all of us on Twitter. Allan, again, is at Full Fat Gaming. Toby is at Tobys_Take. And I am, of course, at the Geek Gurus. That is all. Peace, mother.
Bye.
See ya.